saying, even if he is alive, it won't be the same. Which is exactly what you would expect from that side of resurrection. But what I want to invite you all to consider, this side of resurrection is so much more happened than just somebody rose from the dead. Everything changes with the resurrection of the dead. It's kind of like, only much bigger, than the way everything changed on November 10th, 1951. Some of you might remember. You might not remember the day, but you remember the era. Back in that era, your phone number started with a couple letters. But on that day, November 10th, 1951, the mayor of Englewood, New Jersey, just across the Hudson from New York City. I'm sorry, y'all aren't usually here, so I forget. For visitors, by the way, that means usually at this point they've come out and sat among you. It's not like they leave. The mayor of Englewood, New Jersey, placed a call to the mayor of Alameda, California. Direct dial with an area code. Bell had been working for years on trying to establish this additional 3 numbers and getting rid of that 2-letter prefix thing, which some people were really in love with. There was, believe it or not, an anti-digit dialing league that fought tooth and nail to keep the, I don't know, would Euless have been EU7 or something? Awesome. I guess EU3 had 2A3, right? Some of you.
Wow.
So they introduced the area code, and from that point, everything changed. All of a sudden, we could imagine actually talking on a telephone. And just the fact that it looked something like that says how behind the times that is, with somebody on the other side of the country. And you all know, I assume, that this has changed yet again because people coming into adulthood now may well wonder why we call it an area code, because it no longer has anything necessary to do with where you live. I mean, now it's as much an identifier of who you are. I mean, I really thought I was a 254, and I wanted to change when I came up here, and all they had was a 682, and I didn't think that fit me. So I was relieved when it came around I could become an 817, which I may just keep for the rest of my time until numbers as a whole become irrelevant. Because, you don't even know people's numbers anymore, or at least I don't. And I used to be really good at memorizing phone numbers. Easy. But I don't need to anymore. This thing I carry in my pocket knows all of them. So the fundamentals of the game changed. On the far side of an event, nothing is the same as it was beforehand. Maybe here's an issue, a story closer to home, because you can picture this. You've got to go to DFW to catch a flight, and you get there early enough after the choir has just blessed our socks off, unless you're not wearing socks. And you make it to the airport in plenty of time. You get through the headache that is security, and you're approaching your gate. There's time to spare. You can sit down and kind of recover. There's one open seat, and you stop on the way there. Sorry. And there's a little kiosk, and you buy yourself a little pack of cookies, and you put it in your bag, and go sit down, and the open seat, there's a pleasant-looking man sitting right next to it. And so you make eye contact, and you sit down, and you just kind of let all the anxiety and stress of finding a parking place, getting a shuttle, getting through security, keeping the toothpaste, all those things in your head, and it's all okay. And you reach down, just calmly open your cookies, and you realize this guy's looking at you, like he's staring the hole through you. So you smile politely, you take a cookie, and so does he. So you finish your cookie very quickly, and you take the next cookie, and so does he. And you're sure something's going on, but you've made it through security in time, your flight's okay, and you just had this cantata, so you're not going to mess with anybody. You just keep enjoying your cookies, and one by one, he takes as many as you do. And then he beats you to the punch on the last one, but breaks it in half and gives you half of the last cookie that he's just taken. It's all you can do, and you can only do this because you've just experienced this cantata. And you calmly get up, walk back to the kiosk, get another packet of cookies, walk back to your place, and you're ready to put it in your bag when you see that your bag of cookies is there. But in the identical bag sitting next to yours, there is no longer a bag of cookies. You took his cookies. Which changes all the things that you've been thinking about this guy that had been sitting next to you that took your cookies. Like that, it's all different.
Oh, man.
It's how the resurrection works. Like that, it's all different. I don't know exactly how this illustration worked, but the Noah movie is apparently pretty big. I haven't seen it yet. I've heard, it seems like reviewers either love it or hate it, which makes me think it's probably worth seeing. I don't know. But some of the concerns on the people that hate it, it seems like they're concerned that it doesn't match the precious moments version of Noah that we all grew up learning as children. You know, this is the Bible story by which we teach children what all the animals are. That's not the Genesis version. But we get all up in arms if somebody's imagination takes it in some direction other than, this is how to tell this Bible story to your 3-year-old. Now, I don't know if the Noah movie is a game changer or not, but the empty tomb is a game changer because Jesus' resurrection turns everything around. It changes the story from defeat to victory. I love the song that you have to go through the cross to have a crown, something like that. There's not a crown without a cross. Thank you very much. But even that song presumes the game has changed because typically it's not the one that's hung on the cross in the way we expect the world to work that gets the crown. It's the one who did the hanging on the cross. So you don't go to defeat to receive your crown, except that this is exactly what God was willing to do. Because for God, the victory was not in overpowering with power, but with love. And we, inevitably, 2,000 years later, still try to make God like us, in that the one with the strongest show of force wins. But God, through Jesus, invites us to become like Him, in that the one who can stop returning violence for violence is the one with the crown. Now, Doug read Matthew's version of the story. I want to invite you to turn, which is metaphorically, I don't know if you have your Bibles, and I'm not actually turning pages, but John's version of the resurrection is really, really interesting. And I want to start even before the resurrection story, which starts technically in chapter 20, with the end of chapter 19. Now, you remember, John's gospel is the one that starts in the beginning. So John is intentionally trying to make us think of another book in the Bible that starts in the beginning, which is
Genesis.
Oh, I think a few more people at the 8:30 service actually knew that. Should I give you another try? Okay, the other book of the Bible that starts within the beginning is Genesis. Oh, that's much better. It's still choir heavy, but it's all right. They know these things. So John is trying throughout his book in a number of incredibly interesting ways that you'll be thankful I don't have time to deal with today. Remind us of the book of Genesis, but follow me on this one. At the end of the crucifixion story, Jesus is off the cross, and they need to lay him to rest someplace. And so in chapter 19, verse 40 and 41, maybe 42. John writes, following Jewish burial customs, they took Jesus' body and wrapped it with the spices in linen cloths. There was a garden in the place where Jesus was crucified, and in the garden was a new tomb in which no one had ever been laid. Do you remember that other book that starts with "in the garden"? I'm sorry, that's a song everybody wants for the funeral. In the beginning, there's a garden early in that story too. And that's the garden where God started humanity 1.0. There's a very, very clear point that John is trying to make with setting this in the garden. Because in the first verse of the next chapter, it says, early in the morning of the first day of the week. So John is setting this up as this is the new creation. It's in the garden. First day of the week. Starts within the beginning. So what God is doing in Jesus, God has already done then. So whatever we try to make about Easter as being, or Jesus about being a ticket to